I'm not in the mood to like do myself today. You know what I
No,
mean?
not
I'm
at
just
all.
like, oh,
Are we on? Are we happening?
I think we may have just landed. I'm gonna
But
hit.
my Firefox is,
Here we
oh,
are.
oh my God, they're showing me you. That never happens.
Ooh.
I'm going to be our first like and our first heart.
Yay! Yay! And Nama's state of mind is here as well. So we have an audience.
Namaste to
We're
mind.
not just talking to ourselves, right? Though we're doing that too. What's going on, Dani? How are you?
I'm good. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm great. Best day ever. How are you?
Same. I just like nothing's wrong. It's like a beautiful day here, right? Like nothing has really gone wrong. I've had this annoying thing with like one of my video hosting accounts today that I've been kind of dealing with in the background, and then there's been this alarm going off all day on the other side of the parking lot. So there's just this like underlying agitation. But other than that, I'm fine.
That kind of matches the underlying agitation here because yesterday we had these insane winds. It was like blackout. There was no visibility. There were multiple car pileups. And Bet and I were messaging about it. And I'm like, can you say harp? Like, this is so obvious. And then this alert went out of like, deadly life threatening fires in New Mexico and Texas. And I'm like, oh, how convenient for the fucktards.
So it was interesting when we were in Santa Fe that there was one day where they were like telling us to plan for the power having to be turned off because of the wind or something. It didn't
Right.
end up happening, but I thought that was interesting. It was like that, right? And then last week there was a fire here in Fredericksburg, right? That you
Oh,
could,
yeah. Adam was talking about it.
yeah, and you could smell it all the way over here. It was like smoky and you could smell it. But when I was looking up fire in Fredericksburg, because it smelled here and we were trying to figure out what happened. So when I was looking up why is there a fire, I noticed that like 10 days prior, there had been an article in a news clip in Austin about how Austin is ripe for wildfires and we better get right. Like they were planting that thing. Um, yeah, the winds are, it's been pretty windy here the last like over the course of the last week, there's been at least like 4 or 5 days where there's been like a major windy part of the day,
Yeah.
right? It's warm right now, so it's like a warm wind. I don't know, I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other about the nature of this wind, but I have felt the winds before that feel like completely fake. Like I remember when I was still working at Mouthful in Thousand Oaks, there was like this windstorm, and actually it ended up like blowing in the door, like the glass door at the restaurant. But it was really weird. Like it didn't feel like real wind. I remember going out to take the garbage to the dumpster, and like the wind felt like, you know, the way when you're going out of one of those into or out of one of those hotels or department stores that has the turnstile
Yeah.
and you feel like the wind behind you, like it felt like that. Like it
Yeah.
didn't feel like any normal wind I had ever felt. I was like, oh, that feels like some sort of like created or programmed type of wind. I don't know that I would say that the wind I have felt here this week feels like that, but it is a little, I don't know. I'll have to think about it.
Well, I also track it to like the giant blanket of fog, cloud
Mhm.
cover in the high desert. Like I just track those things. And like full disclosure, shocker, I'm a paranoid conspiracy theorist. So I don't trust anything Israel. Um,
Right,
Israel, like I can't,
right.
every time I say that,
I
it's just
know, I
conflated
know,
with that
I
landmass.
know, I know.
Okay, so I
I
would like
can't
to
believe
share.
this is real, is the real, right?
Correct. So yesterday I had so the past 2 days, yesterday the day before, I've been working like 7 in the morning till 11:30 at night, right? So at night, last night, I'm winding down. I'm getting ready to like bounce and roll out my fascia and do those things. And I'm like, I don't want to listen to any more sham show bullshit. I just want to check out and laugh. So I look to see what my options are. And I land on this Jenny Slate comedy special that I had never seen before. And I'm listening, but I'm not watching. So I'm listening as I'm like doing stuff around the house. And it's obviously a few years old, and she's talking about road tripping during the pandemic and peeing on the street and how it happened in New Mexico. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, okay, now you've got my attention. And later in the same um comedy special, she talks about having her baby, and she has her baby in Santa Fe. And I'm like, this feels like I don't believe this. Like, it would be one of those things that I would send you the video and be like, are you hearing these things? Because I'm kind of not believing that this chick who lives in LA and is from the East Coast is for some reason having her baby in Santa Fe. Like, none of this is making sense. And then I look at the video, and I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, I got permission already. Why,
Yeah.
thank you. This is what she was wearing. Now, what is very interesting about this outfit, do you remember bar mitzvah season?
Yes. I
So,
suffered through it many times.
okay, so I'm gonna stop the share for a second. I'm guessing it was probably similar for you as it was for me, where bar mitzvah season, I think it was like seventh, eighth, it might have bled into ninth grade. And I was infinitely smaller than everyone else my age. And at that time, it was like little folk shop. And if my mom was in a good mood, we could go to all popcorn. But there were not.
Little folk shop, all the popcorn, and then like if you were with your dad and they were being cheap, it was Kids Mart.
We didn't go to Kids Mart.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, little
They
folk.
own, they own Little Folk Shop. The same people that own Kids Mart own Little Folk Shop, but like it was like they're, you know how like there's Gap and then there's Old Navy, and Old Navy is like the lesser Gap, like Kids Mart was like the lesser Little Folk Shop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was always embarrassing because, like, I remember starting high school and we could only wear skirts and dresses, and everyone was shopping at like Contempo and Bongo, and I was like at the little folk shop because nothing fucking fit me. So, bar mitzvah shopping was always a fucking nightmare. Plus, I hated dresses. I always hated dresses, and so we compromised on this little shorts tuxedo that, I'm not kidding, was freaking exactly what Jenny Slate was wearing in her special.
Yeah.
And then I got weirded out on some freaky conspiracy, like, are they targeting me? How do they know what I wore to all the bar mitzvahs?
Mhm.
Am I crazy that I think this is self-referential?
Yeah, I had some of the same issues with the clothing, right? But it is funny that I've had things happen before, and what's especially weird is when they happen like out of time sync, like it's from something a few years ago, but like everything in the video is somehow about you now or whatever, right?
Exactly.
So we would do Kids Mart, Little Folk Shop, all the popcorn, also like some Bullocks, and if
Oh, we did Bullocks.
we would go with my mom.
Warbucks? Did you ever go to Warbucks?
I feel like I maybe have been there once. But my mom, sometimes we could talk her into taking us into town and going to the Esprit showroom, right? Or whatever.
On La Cienega?
Yes, right.
So that used to be Flippers, which was a roller skating disco. Yeah, those were
Yes.
good days if we got to go to Esprit.
Right. If we went to Esprit or like wherever there might be a guest store or whatever, that was kind of before the George's Marciano store. It was when there was just like the regular guest store, right? And so like those were kind of our, but it was difficult for me too, like being small, right? And not also same thing, didn't really love wearing, I was okay with certain dresses and certain skirts, but not like the ones most of the other kids would wear or the ones that were mostly on offer, right? So it was always really challenging. It was much more stressful to get invited to these parties than I enjoyed going to them. And I felt like it was kind of unfair that I had to be tortured through all of these bar and bat mitzvahs because I never had one, and so I wasn't going to get to cash in. So like, but you know what I mean?
I felt the same. We always had to dress up. Okay, this is a little bit off topic, but I feel just as resentful when I go to people's weddings and like I have to put on the dry clean only. A lot of times there's travel involved, getting them gifts, honoring them, and then they get divorced. And I'm like, what was that whole sham about? You want me to witness you taking vows that you don't take seriously because you're a fucking liar? I cannot stand that. When people get divorced, I want reparations.
Reparations might be a good title for the show. Anywho, yeah, most of my friends, I think, either don't like me as much as I think they do, or they get me and I respect it because even people who are some of my good friends, I often don't get invited to the weddings, and I'm not sad generally, right? I'm generally like, they just did me like the best honor they could ever do me. But yeah, I do think it's a little like, if people are having their wedding like where you live and you live there, I think it's completely reasonable that a person needs to worry about whatever they're gonna wear and then bring a gift. But like sometimes people be inviting you to their wedding like on the other side of the country or in a different country. And they're like, and there's a formal portion and then there's a casual portion. So now we're at like two outfits, and there's also like a rehearsal dinner. So like now we're at three outfits. There's hotels, and then it's not like there's this clause for the people who are traveling for that, like, no need to get a gift because we consider your attendance to be that, right? Like it's crazy, right? Like, yeah, it's crazy.
It's totally
I don't
crazy.
like it. I don't
No,
like it.
I cannot stand it. And what I've noticed is the friends who do that and expect everyone to go all out because they've decided to lock down their heart, which I don't really see as some sort of achievement. It's just a choice. No, those are the same people who won't acknowledge when, like, I publish a book or I put something out,
Right,
and that annoys me. It's like, oh, everything's about you and
right.
all your presents and all your shit. But those of us who are making different choices, we get zero acknowledgement whatsoever.
Right. This is for how quote unquote modern our society is. There is still all of this traditional dogma around like what things are sort of requirements and what are just flight of fancy and
Right.
right. Like, yeah, I totally get it. I had to overcome whatever that felt like for me a long time ago because I always understood what the path for me was going to be.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
But like, I don't understand why just because you decide to procreate, I have to buy you shit. Like, that's
My,
your
my
choice.
sister, I like how my sister handles it, right? Like she intentionally tells me not to get her and Walter anything for the holidays or for birthdays because I get things for the kids or whatever. Like you don't have to get anything for us, right? And so it's just like, yeah, I like that seems like if you that seems like a fair sort of like trade-off. She often sends a present for us, even though I'm not giving one for her, but I'm getting stuff for the kids. Right. Yeah. I don't know. The whole thing, all of this present giving, this sort of like mandatory gift giving, which is also another good name for the show. Um, Mandatory gift giving is like I like to just get people something when I feel like it, when I think of them. Sometimes you're
Totally.
somewhere and you see a thing that just like screams that person, right?
Like your
Like
Oy vey shirt.
like my Oy Vey shirt or whatever it is, right? And I wanted to get you that Hello Kitty crystal that so badly, but they didn't have the stuff. There was one I told you there. I was in San Antonio, and there was this stone that, like, when I saw that color stone, I was like, Dani needs that stone. But then I also saw that these people had cut some crystals into Hello Kitty shape, but there was no Hello Kitty in the stone that you needed, and then none of the other stones were telling me, right? I was like, I stayed in there for like 45 minutes going through everything they had, trying to find the Hello Kitty in the stone. I'm still sad. Like, yeah, maybe when I go back next time, like they'll have it. But and it wasn't like chintzy, shitty, cheap looking Hello Kitty stone. It was like, oh, this is a fucking badass crystal that someone made it, like what they did their thing to the Hello Kitty, right? Um,
Just that you thought of me to that extent, like,
yeah.
is enough. Like, just that is totally makes my day. Thank you.
But yeah, I like to just do something when I feel like it, or I prefer to like do the gift giving of like inviting someone to dine out to eat or drink with me or whatever, so we can actually spend time together instead of just like giving you a trinket that you're just gonna put in your closet and probably never wear.
Well,
Right?
and that's the other thing. It's like the thoughtless gifts that someone feels obliged to give. It's like now I have a bunch of trash that I have to
Right.
deal with. Like, I'd rather we
Right.
just skip it than give me some like thoughtless, lame thing that I don't care about.
Right. And then there's this like other weird thing, like towards the end of your parents' life, when they don't leave the house anymore and they can barely eat or drink anything and they don't do anything and they have like, right, they can't lift anything, they don't come to the door or whatever, but it's their birthday and you feel like you have to buy them something. It's like there's like not a single more Dodgers t-shirt. There's no more Dodgers t-shirts I can buy my dad. Right.
Right.
Like what and they like they're actively getting rid of all of the things that they already have, either that or they're a hoarder, which probably more closely resembles my father. But it's like, what is this thing where we just feel like, yep, every February 5th, got to do it. Every December 25th, got to do it. I don't know what that is. It's stupid.
Yeah, I don't do it. I opted out of that a super long time
I
ago.
mostly don't do it, but I do it for the children.
Okay.
That's another good title, for the children, right? All right. Well, I listened to hours of meaningless content today, hoping to find some clips, and like just nothing made the cut, which is unusual for me. I do have one tweet from producer Masaki that I could share at any time during this broadcast, but fortunately, Dani has clipped everything she could get her scissors on, and we're raring to go.
Yeah. I have way too many clips.
I'm just picturing Sadie running around with scissors in her hands, like some kind of clip monster,
Running with scissors. Have we done
That's
that
an
one yet?
Augustin Burroughs book. Have you ever read
I
it?
love Augustin Burroughs.
Me
I read
too.
that book. I saw him do a live reading once. I think I've read everything he's written. And then they
And me
made it
too.
into like a shitty movie with
The movie,
Gwyneth, whatever.
the movie was terrible, but all his books were. I read that, Running with Scissors. I read the Magical Thinking. There was another one I can't remember. Did you ever read his story about the guy with the micro penis?
Yes. Oh my God. I can write reams about micro penises. But I'll save it for another time.
Didn't you tell me there was like something called like a nano penis or something too? Was that you who told me that? You had
No.
another name besides micro penis. I don't remember what it was. Okay. Anywho, yeah, I like Augustin Burroughs as well.
Yeah, I love
I
him.
can relate to a lot of his drug stories.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Where do we want to start? I kind of want to start with Ian Carroll just because I feel like that's the juiciest, even though it's totally not timely.
Right. Let's
Are
do
we
it.
okay with
I
that?
I wasn't aware of it. Like, my guess would be because he wasn't doing much YouTube back then, so probably a lot of people missed it. But devil's in the details, and I think you just found the devil. So let's see it.
I found the devil. Okay. So I just want to make sure this is the first. Yes. Okay. So I told you guys I was, last night up late looking for stuff to jump into. And you know what? It doesn't even matter how I got to it. I found this video from almost exactly a year ago.
Yep.
Shanahan rumors versus research. And
It was his second ever live stream,
it's so crazy.
right?
Yeah, all right. So before I give my thoughts on it, we'll just dive in. Fair use.
Let's talk about her husbands briefly. The big one is she was married to Sergey Brin for a while, and she has a kid with Sergey Brin. I think she's on her third marriage now, and all of them have been like kind of rich, I think Jewish tech executives of various forms. And with Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, she has a child. It's worth reading about the court case over alimony and money after that divorce. I'm not clear on the specifics of that. There were allegations that she had an affair with Elon Musk that both of them denied. I don't really care to judge whether that's real or not. I don't really give a shit. I kind of doubt it's real, but who knows? It could be. I'm not really stressed about people's personal lives. I'm more stressed about what baggage they bring into their positions with them.
So one thing, if I really recommend people watch this whole thing as far as like, is Ian Carroll the real deal? Is he controlled? This indicates that he's clearly controlled. But this is a linguistic tick that peppers this entire video. Anything he finds or presents that would paint Nicole in a bad light, he says, I'm not really stressed about it. I'm not really stressed about it. That's repeated like over and over.
This reminds me, Robert sent me, in just a minute, I forgot to unlock the deadbolt before I started the live stream, and Laura will come home while we're doing this. So in a minute, I'm going to need to go do that real quick. It'll take me 5 seconds. But Robert sent me a text last week, and this is what he said. Hold on a second. Where is it? Okay. So he said, What do you think about Ian Carroll? And I said, hey, I was thinking about you today. He's a plant. Dani and I have been covering him for several months, and we actually did a deep dive on him a few months ago. I can send it to you if you want. He said, yes, send it along, please. And he said, where is it? Amazing Polly uncovered something interesting about Ian Carroll. I bet you and Dani found this as well. He was doing a live on Twitter and was asked about Brock Pierce. Do you know who he is? And I said, Brock Pierce is a Peter Thiel person. And Robert said he's also connected to Epstein. Someone brought him up, and Ian's response was, interesting, because Brock Pierce is part of the podcast that Ian does with Trudeau's half brother, Kyle Kemper. I didn't know this. I knew Ian does a podcast with a couple of other people,
Okay.
right? But I didn't know that Brock Pierce is one of them. Like, Brock Pierce is a Peter Thiel person, right? So when somebody in his chat room brought it up, he said, interesting, right? And then he said, Ian says he doesn't know anything about it and it doesn't affect him personally, so it doesn't matter. It's just kind of like what you said, right? What did you just say? He always says, I'm not stressed
about it. I'm not really stressed about it.
Right. So like, and so I said to Robert exactly that. I said, that sounds like something he'd say, because it sounds exactly like the thing that you just said. So he literally co-hosts a podcast with one of the people that sort of is in that space between Peter Thiel and Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm not surprised. No wonder he's talking about Epstein a lot.
Right.
But
just control the narrative. It doesn't matter what people think, as long as the thing that they think is not the thing that is the actual truth. So talk about it all day long.
Totally.
Yeah.
So the knots he's about to tie himself into to make his utterly ridiculous point is pretty astounding.
But I just want to say, as soon as I saw this video, I'm like, oh, that had to have been like they must have recruited him to do this show, hired him to do this.
Here's the comment that I put on it today. Don't paid advertisements like this require some sort of disclosure? All right, continuing.
And my outer take on her Sergey Brin thing is that she was trying to get money to raise her kid that has autism, because they don't just have any kid, they have a kid that has autism, and that's a lot of money to raise that kid. And so I'm assuming that she's doing a lot of that raising on her own, because Sergey Brin is off being Sergey Brin. And so it's hard to knock someone for being like, yo, you have like $100 billion. Let's give that kid $1 billion to make sure that they're taken care of. That's my outside take of it. I didn't dig too much into the marriages. I'm not too stressed about the old ones. I'm more curious about the new one.
He's not too stressed about it, but keep in mind, this is her third billionaire Jew tech bro husband. But Ian's not too stressed about it, so we shouldn't be either.
The new one that they met at Burning Man. And I think a lot of people
She also met Sergey Brin at Burning Man.
on the right are going to give them shit for that. I think if you haven't been to Burning Man or music festivals, I think you don't really know what you're talking about there, but that's cool. They had like some sort of druidic wedding that like has been spun as like some blood ritual or some bullshit. I don't know.
But he's a Christian.
I think that's hilarious.
Right, exactly.
All kinds of people go to Burning Man. All kinds of people go to festivals. I have spent a huge amount of my life going to music festivals. I've worked security and harm reduction at music festivals. And there is everything under the sun at music festivals. And the types of people that go there can be everything from the most degenerate, ridiculous, out of this world people, all the way to the most unreal, intelligent, amazing humans. I don't think that's a wise way to judge someone's character by them going to a festival like Burning Man. It's better to just judge them on who they are and what they do. And there's not a lot of information about Jacob Strumwasser on the internet, but what there is about him is that he works in Bitcoin. He works on the Lightning Network. He works at Lightning Labs. So her partner is a crypto expert, and not in some like meme coin shit coin. Her partner is a Bitcoiner. And if you understand crypto at all, I mean, maybe you're like an Ethereum maxi and you're like, Bitcoin is horrible and I'm not ever voting for a Bitcoin person. But like, I would rather have we're not going to talk about crypto all day, don't worry. But I would rather have a Bitcoiner who is, because Bitcoin is fundamentally more corruption proof than a lot of the Ethereum chains. Bitcoin is fundamentally more like blockchain centric. And I'm no expert, but I would much rather have a Bitcoiner in here than someone who's working on some weird Ethereum side chain that's like trading on FTX and then 2 years later steals everyone's money. That's my take on that. And if we're talking about a presidential and VP ticket that can deal with the oncoming issues of currency and digital currencies and regulating that, I mean, having the Bitcoin community on the team here is a pretty solid win in my book. Tell me if I'm wrong, but that's my take on her partner at the moment. And they both surf apparently. So they're, being athletic, being healthy helps you be a real person. It's no guarantee. Let's be real.
So because her new boyfriend works at Bitcoin, now he's made him a Bitcoin expert, that means the Bitcoin team is in the administration because of who she's fucking.
Right.
And this is why
It's so
awesome
stupid.
that she's there, even though it's her third. She's 35 years old.
Yeah.
3 billionaire Jew husbands. But we're not
neither you nor I have collectively have not attracted one Jew billionaire husband yet, right?
3 in a row. All right, so any commentary on that before we jump into the other piece?
Well, no, it's just like, yeah, I mean, Dani and I were chatting before we pushed stream about how much you want to bet that Ian Carroll's an actor that was discovered in Hollywood and someone approached him and said, "We have the role of a lifetime for you. What do you think?" And that is sort of what we're looking at here, right? The pandemic period was a tough time for actors and the industry has never really recovered, right? And so if you had a dream of being an actor, right, you would probably have to consider a different set of roles in 2022, 23, 24 than had you tried to make your way in Los Angeles in 2005 or whatever it was, right? And he took the role. It was a touring role, right? It was kind of like being on a touring show. And once the election was over, he settled in Los Angeles, where he has his own stage set now, right? And is doing podcasts with people that he doesn't even know who they are.
Also, remember when it was yes, he doesn't even know that he's doing a podcast with a PayPal mafioso guy. Which podcast was he on where he said that he was paying for his Rescue the Republic travel and the only thing he didn't pay for was that Nicole Shanahan paid to fly him out? Do you remember that?
That probably the Viva Fry.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he's on record saying this, that
but you also, a lot of people are like, I pay all my own travel, but then what they don't tell you is that their speaking fee is high enough that it, right? There's many ways. I've worked in raves and parties where you're booking DJs from all over the world, right? And some people have a fairly low booking fee, but want to sit in first class on an airplane, want to stay in a nice hotel, want to be taken for an expensive sushi dinner, want, 3 cases of high-end liquor in their backstage for them. And so, right. And then other people don't care about any of that. They just have a high booking fee and they take care of everything else for themselves. So just saying that you paid for things yourself doesn't mean that you aren't being paid to do the things that are allowing you to pay for things yourself.
Correct.
Right.
And he also told us that Nicole Shanahan paid to fly him out on top of whatever, other secret deals.
I think it's entirely possible that she may have been the one to discover him and fund his rise and to hire coaches and mentors and video editors and things like that to help him. I think we should be looking at that pretty specifically, because he's the one, he always defends her. He never says a critical thing about her. Even if he may make some positive comments and some critical comments about all the other folks, he only ever says wonderful things about her, right?
And only wonderful things about her. Like, this video stands out from every other video where I do think he can be good at covering both sides and saying, well, there's this, but then there's this, but this is just 1,000% spin. And that's exactly why I wanted to share this, is maybe she's having a bigger part in this whole alt media wellness company tribe than we had realized.
You know what else I'm thinking? You know what industry, even more so than regular Hollywood, took a hit during the pandemic? Porn industry in Los Angeles. And Ian Carroll looks like a fucking porn star.
Oh, yeah.
And that's an industry that, like, you know, it's like, this is going to sound so crazy, but it's kind of like same to the rave, like with the raves. They didn't care what you did to yourself at the raves before, but you can't come to a rave without a fucking vaccine, right? And I have a feeling that it was probably similar in some of these, you know, porn shoots and whatever it is like, oh yeah, we like let STDs fly, but we have to we can't film because of COVID, right?
Sure.
Or whatever it is. And that's an industry that, you know, at this point is really on the rocks because of all the different weird things going on with the companies that own them and surveillance and all this kind of stuff. So that's an industry that is, you know, probably not ever going to be the same either. So whether he was in Hollywood to be a star or in Hollywood doing porn, like becoming a anti-corruption or anti-COVID voice at the period of time that he did, or whatever he did, the GameStop thing, he was into that was during the pandemic. All that stuff happened, right? So his rise, the time that he wrote that he had a rise, it's really interesting what the sort where he made. I would love to know where someone found him.
Word, totally.
Yeah. He was found. He didn't do this himself.
Oh, hell no.
He made good use of the opportunity he was given, and I'm sure he probably, just like we talk about how Tim Pool works very hard, I'm sure Ian Carroll has worked hard, but he was given an opportunity and he maximized.
Yeah, I mean, so I had been playing devil's advocate with him, as you and I were talking about before we hit record, and like, okay, I'm not really sure. That's thrown out the window. Like, at this point, he's 1,000% shill. I'm giving him no benefits of no doubts.
Yep. Yeah. You can be a hardworking shill.
Yeah. There's nothing organic about him. Okay. So going back, I'll just do one more.
Look at that. Look at that. That looks like a fresh out of work porn star.
Yeah, but that's like the look that, you know, all the hipster Gen Z doofuses are walking around looking
like. He
like.
has it better than anyone I've ever seen.
Well, that's why he's in this position.
Yes, totally. Right?
Okay, here we go. Fair use.
Fund Kennedy's efforts to get on more states' ballots. Totally true. Funding is important, and we'll talk about that next. And then it says, quote, she lacks the qualifications to actually do the job. And I just wanted to quickly point out, this is a common criticism of Nicole Shanahan, as we're getting started on talking about Nicole Shanahan, is that she's too young and too inexperienced to actually do the job. But I want to just quickly pause.
I also want to share something really quick.
Are we supposed to believe that he made that document, and not that document was given to him to use in this video? Yeah, go ahead.
100%. Also, ex-wife of Google co-founder has given a total of $10 million to Kennedy's effort. So I want us to keep that in mind. His attempted debunking of this during this video is so weak and laughable, but I just want this to be in our minds. Like, this bitch bought her way into this whole thing. Yeah. All right, continuing.
And remind us all what that statement is actually talking about. It's like, what job is she unqualified to do? Is she unqualified to do the job of president the way it's been done by every other president up until now? Re-enriching the rich, reinforcing the status quo, reestablishing corporate dominance of America and corporate capture of all of our regulators. Yeah, she doesn't have experience in mainstream politics, continuing the exact same shit show that has been destroying our country ever since we were born. She does not have experience doing that, but she does have experience in big tech, litigating against large tech companies. She does have experience directing technological projects and understanding the future of AI and understanding the future of cryptocurrencies, and understand, like, she has a lot of qualifications actually that all of the 80-year-olds in Congress and in the White House don't have. And if you think about it, personally, in my 31-year-old opinion, is that the real job for the next 4 to 8 years is actually far more focused on technology than on whatever these 80-year-olds know. So I just wanted to clap back real quick at Wired and remind us all that when they say things like doesn't have the experience to do the job, what job are they talking about? Because the job that they've all been doing is totally not helping anyone except for the military industrial complex, big pharma, big agriculture, etc. You get what I'm pointing out there? Okay. She is rich. She's super rich. My understanding is that she made a fair bit of that wealth on her own, and then she married into a fair bit of wealth several times. I didn't try to dig through her whole personal marriage history and what all of her like financial relationship to those marriages was. I'm not super stressed about that.
Okay,
It's such a tell.
let me unlock the door real fast so she doesn't come pounding. Hold on a second.
Hey guys.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, she's back.
Yeah. Okay, it was fast. Sorry. I forget to do that sometimes.
Apology rejected.
Yeah, huh?
So then his debunking of her $10 million donation is like, yeah, I know that's what everyone says, but when I looked it up, he's like, I could be wrong, you know, I could be fallacious in my research, but I didn't find any evidence of that on the internet. That was his big debunk. This whole thing was a giant commercial for Nicole Shanahan, clearly paid for by Nicole Shanahan by way of all of her ex-husband's money.
Well, right. And it's weird that somebody, like, if you have at that point thousands of videos on or hundreds of videos on YouTube and you choose to spend an hour of your life doing that, but if it's your second ever live stream and you decide, like first of all, how smooth he was for his second ever live stream at doing all of the screen shares and all of that kind of stuff, I don't buy it. But yeah, at that, if it was now, I would be less suspicious of the fact than it was then. It's very suspicious. Yeah.
It's so super, and I'm surprised at like everyone who's questioning him has not found their way to this video, because I feel like this video shows his true colors like so consistently and so clearly.
Yeah. She is the person I've heard him come to the defense of more than anyone else.
Yep.
Which tells me she's Mama Bear.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Well, she's Mama Warbucks.
Right. Basically. Right. All right. What else do you got?
Okay, you can choose. I have 2 different versions of alt media people making fun of Eric Weinstein embarrassing himself again.
Yeah.
I have one clip from Clayton and Tucker, but you and I can have a whole conversation about that. I have the Do Dissidents guys talking about Matt Taibbi will not cover Israel.
I'd say let's just go in that order. Let's go Eric Weinstein, Clayton and Tucker, and Do Dissidents.
Okay, would we rather see Sam Sater making fun of Eric Weinstein on Dave Rubin, or some rando where the title of his video is Eric Weinstein embarrasses himself?
Maybe both. Let's watch Sam Sater and let's maybe both. I saw.
Oh, and I also have, which I do want to play, is
Whitney
Carla
Webb.
Porcenko on that smart half Asian chicks show.
Kim Iverson.
Yes.
She's also half Danish, dear. Come on now. Okay. So,
yeah, but there's no cachet. There's no like stop Danish hate movement.
Right, but if you look at like her facial features, she actually has more Danish facial features than she does Asian facial features. It's kind of
well. Does she have straight pubes? That's really what it comes
I
down
haven't examined them. Okay, so yeah, and I was telling you before, like Tom Bilyeu says Eric Weinstein is the smartest person he's ever met. I'm just like, oh fuck, man. All right, play the Eric Weinstein.
I guess he doesn't get out much.
Right.
All right, so fair use. Now, both of these videos are talking about the same interview. I
Yeah.
think this one might be funnier.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Fair use.
I am getting so much abuse out there.
Yeah.
From people on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. I'm just like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends who you fought shoulder to shoulder with.
Are your feelings, let's say, moderated by the fact that so many tech bros are now involved in this? Because these are not, say,
They're not tech bros. They were my friends.
well, okay. So, but that's what I mean. So you know a lot of these.
Yeah, but they just changed. Like, it was crazy how many of them have just changed. I didn't know how shallow this was.
All right, so it looks like Eric Weinstein is having a tough time once again. This guy is always going through something. He loves to whine. I mean, it's literally in his name, so I guess we shouldn't be that surprised. But now his problem is people are being too mean to him on Twitter, and none of his friends will stick up for him. And he also feels like he's been left behind by Trump and his supporters. Like, he's all disappointed that Trump never reaches out to him to ask him for help with his administration. Like, Eric thinks he deserves to be part of Trump's team because he's been fighting woke culture longer than everybody else. That's how far up his own ass this guy is. Like, on this Dave Rubin podcast, Eric keeps talking about how he's been fighting a war for decades, and he feels like he's being disrespected now because all these tech guys who jumped on the Trump train at the last second are getting more attention than him.
That I just sat through a bunch of years of being asked to kiss the woke ring and to bend the knee to the woke and all this kind of nonsense. I've been fighting this war at some levels since the late 80s, so it's like 35 years. Because quite honestly, I was on this train a long time before Trump ever boarded. And this idea that a bunch of, in particular, like the tech right, they just jumped on this thing 4 seconds ago, and now they're acting like, they've been here the whole time. It's incredibly disrespectful. I'll be entirely honest. One of the most off-putting things I ever heard in my life is that when you look at people who've been fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call? Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement. My endorsement
True.
mattered.
No,
Like when they called Bobby said, I have things that I want. I had things that I wanted to know. What are you going to do about universities? What are you going to do about science?
Yeah, so he's definitely bitter about all these people who got positions from Trump while he's being left out. It's so funny. Like, Eric thought he was part of Trump's team and they'd be consulting with him, but they really want nothing to do with him. And you could tell he was getting frustrated about it leading up to the election because he kept complaining about it on Twitter. Like, he said, I'm failing this election. I tried, but I simply failed. I cannot work within these concepts. My world, my country, my America is not on the ballot. And of course, everybody in the comments was roasting him. Even Dave Rubin's like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but how are you not voting for Trump? And then after the election, Eric posted another tweet where he said, for whatever reason, the campaign doesn't reach out much. I don't know why, but this is an observation, so I don't want to take crap for observing it. And again, people in the comments and some of his friends, I'm sure, were like, dude, the world doesn't revolve around you. Like, you'd even endorse Trump. Remember a couple weeks ago, you said he failed this election. So you'd think Eric would get the hint, but of course not. This will never stop him, and he's still complaining about it. It's hilarious. Like, these Weinstein brothers have no shame. Like, they'll never realize how embarrassing the shit they do is because their egos are just so big. I mean, if you remember last year, his brother Brett went on Rogan's podcast and admitted that Elon had to block him because he wouldn't stop annoying him. Like, he kept messaging Elon because his Twitter account wasn't trending enough. And Elon responded and said, stop spamming me, and then blocked him, which is pretty embarrassing. Like, you'd think, why would Brett want to admit this? But the best part is Brett's ego is so big, he didn't even understand what was going on. He was all confused about it. And he's like, why would he say, stop spamming me? Why would he block me? He can't even believe that Elon wouldn't want to spend his time listening to him complain about his Twitter account. So he thought it must be a mistake. Like, he was so confused about it. And I'm sure he lost a lot of sleep over it. Elon blocking you for some of these people, that's like the end of the world.
And I started to tell him about this trend stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He blocked me. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't think he's on the other team. I don't think...
He blocked you?
Yes. He blocked me, and I'm blocked to this day, which seems strange.
I don't think it means he's on the other team. Maybe it means that you're annoying. Maybe it means he doesn't like you.
I love this guy. I love that his name is Too Lazy to Try and he has 320,000 subscribers.
Isn't it so good? All right.
Yeah, but like he's pointing out all the things. Like, yes, I love it. That was great. That was amazing.
Do you want to listen to any more?
If there's more funnies that we need to hear, then we can listen or we can go to Sam Sater.
We could go to Sam Sater, which is just his his take is on the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm. Can you think of any people in the world more embarrassing than Brett and Eric Weinstein? When you were little and you'd go like to a family dinner, or for some reason you were at the temple because of something, and there was like one of your parents' friends or whatever, and they would have these kids, and there'd be like a boy, like a son who was like 11 or 12, and he was like a total oaf, but he didn't realize he was an oaf, and he was super braggadocious and whatever it is. Like, I knew a ton of those people when I was a kid, and Eric and Brett were definitely those people. Like, when you were at the bat mitzvah and you saw them coming over to your table, you're just like, no, you're hiding under the table.
What I love is
Like,
Eric complaining about people who've been leading the charge for so much longer and being ignored, but like there's no self-awareness around his brother being like a FOVID dissident and that
Correct.
whole thing.
Right. Well, that's the whole. Well, no, I think he got the idea from listening to us critique Brett.
Okay, there we go. I just want to be on the payroll. I think it's just time we get a consultant fee. Okay, here's Sam Sater's take on the same interview. Here we go, fair use.
Is that one funny? Where has he been? He's got to be busy. And I mean, Peter Thiel, is he still working for Peter Thiel? He's got to be very excited.
He was the brother. I always get them confused. He's maybe the more sane Weinstein. That's correct?
I mean, that's very difficult to say.
Okay, but I know
this is the one who thought that he invented or had discovered some new physics.
And you have to go on his Discord in order to find it, because he's not going to put it through peer review.
He's also the guy that said that the vaccine has to be good for the COVID vaccine because Israel gave it to their population. And by definition, whatever Israel does is a moral choice.
Well, that was better reason.
No, I think that was Jordan Peterson. Do you remember Eric Weinstein saying that?
It sounds like something he might have said as well, but yes.
It's possible.
I mean, it was probably an IDW talking point.
Totally. Okay.
And then his brothers, who was just an anti-vax psycho.
That's what I'm saying. The more sane one.
I am getting so much abuse out there from people on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. And it's like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends.
Threw up a little bit in his mouth as he moved forward and tried to catch it so he could.
Oh, totally. Like, Dave can barely handle this conversation right now. It's interesting.
And Dave's embarrassing himself, but like
totally,
no one near as embarrassing as the Weinstein.
Totally.
Shoulder to shoulder with, and in particular, I'll be entirely honest, one of the most off-putting things I ever heard in my life is that when you look at people who've been fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call? Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement.
Eric, I have to tell you, you don't get any apologies or, well, you don't get any, someone coming around and saying, oh, I should have done this.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have an opportunity.
Pause it for a second. Now, I just want to be clear here. He is saying that he's getting grief from his friends on the right because he wasn't endorsing Trump, and Rubin doesn't really understand what he's saying, and it's hard because he's trying so gently, and he's mad that he's not being embraced by his new right-wing friends in some way.
So when he said this, I was like, oh, is he going to do a Lincoln Project thing and criticize how the Republicans just kowtow to Trump? No, it's just about his personal
of course,
anger.
It's completely personal.
And delusions of grandeur.
Go back. Oh yeah. These guys. I can only imagine what the Weinstein brothers' mom was like.
Oh my God.
I mean, I think she must have like when.
What'd you say?
This. Okay, so he's trending towards the thing I just said about like the family at the bat mitzvah where the son comes over. Yeah.
Oh, totally. All right. So picking it up.
Yeah.
These guys came home like from school and like, oh my God, look at you. You came back. You're like, oh, did you just take a poopy? Well, yes, you did that so well for a 14-year-old.
Oh,
good
God.
for you. And you wiped yourself. I mean, these guys really.
Narcissism is probably hereditary, is what we're discovering.
Maybe some environmental sort of leak.
Or that.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way.
fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call?
Who are you?
Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement.
Eric, I have to tell you, you don't get any
All right, pause it one
apologies.
second. I just think it's so fantastic. Like, he's what Weinstein's saying. Go back to the beginning of this clip too. What Weinstein's saying is he's saying they're mad at me for not endorsing, but nobody came to solicit my endorsement because I'm Eric Weinstein. Why didn't anybody come and say, President Trump didn't call me. The
dinners.
Trump children didn't come. I didn't get invited to Mar-a-Lago, or maybe he did, but I didn't. Even if I went to Mar-a-Lago, I didn't get invited.
That'd be funny if Russell Brand got the invite and he didn't.
And then Dave Rubin, of course, whose brain is almost like you can almost not measure his brain waves. They're so small. And so almost non-existent, thinks that Eric is asking for an apology. And
but I like how under all of it, Eric doesn't question at all that he might not matter that much.
Well, he does say on some level, like, nobody cared about my endorsement.
Begs the question of why should they?
Right, but that's the second part of it. That was
their
can't
mistake.
go there.
My new physics explains it all, but you need to be a paying member of my Discord to find out. But here's Rubin trying to be all salty, like, how this game is played. And in fact, then Weinstein's like, I'm not talking about that game. All right, but go ahead.
It's out there. Yeah. From people on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. I'm just like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends who you fought shoulder to shoulder with. And in particular, I'll be entirely honest, one of the most off-putting things I ever heard in my life is that when you look at people who've been fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call? Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement.
Eric, I have to tell you, you don't get any apologies or... Well, you don't get any...
What was that?
Nobody cared about your endorsement, right? The title.
Oh, I like that. Do you want me to continue?
We can continue. If there's something else funny in there.
Let's give it another minute or so.
All right.
Someone coming around and saying, "Oh, I should have done this."
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have an opportunity. If my endorsement mattered, like when they called Bobby said, "I have things that I want." Yeah. I had things that I wanted to know. What are you going to do about universities? What are you going to do about
Bobby?
Yes, correct. That is correct. To Kennedy. Got it.
science? To hear Chris Rufo go off about, we're going to stick it to the Ivies. I'm like, well, I understand getting rid of the woke. I understand getting rid of the DEI. I understand all these things. You're going to destroy the crown jewels of American science? Who are you? Exactly. My claim is you have.
Do you think there's much left there at the universities?
Oh my God, go to a seminar. And, look, I go in economics, I go in mathematics, I go in physics, and I go in biology. Yes. There's so much great stuff happening in universities.
He's an evolutionary biologist like his brother.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a huge critic of American universities, but the current group of people doesn't know anything about what they're destroying.
Pause it. Was this not predictable? We have literally 40, 50 years of Republican assaults on universities. Like, way before woke or DEI, those terms were ever invented. Republicans have been trying to attack universities and education as a fundamental pillar of their project since the 1960s, early 70s.
William F. Buckley wrote a book that put him on.
All right, you get the gist.
Yep.
So that was entertaining.
Totally. They have no shame. It's like embarrassing how they don't know that they're supposed to be embarrassed by the things that they're saying.
But it's reminding me of like Rabbi Shmuley and how embarrassing he is, but that's his role. He's the fool. He's supposed to go out there and make an ass of himself. And I'm wondering like if this isn't just what he's been tasked to do, to whine about not getting attention.
Now, Rabbi Shmuley is a fool, is playing a fool, knows he's a fool. He's a well-paid fool, so he's happy to do it.
Yep.
No, these two people, like, they love Brett and Eric because you love when you like if you're a person who's just trying to manipulate shit and get people to do things and whatever it is, you love when you find somebody that has this like hole in their sort of ego that needs constant filling and right and they'll just do the most ass like right. You could get my guess is, I mean, Eric and Brett are very different than one another. They're both equally as embarrassing. Like Brett doesn't have as high of an opinion of himself as Eric does. Brett has more like, right? They're different, but like there's no fucking crazy thing you couldn't talk Brett into doing if there was the promise of being part of the team or the promise of like, you know, getting to be in the cool kids class or getting to be on the board of people who decide who gets free speech or not, or whatever it is, right?
See the Brownstone Institute / episode 100.
Yes, I think it was the yes.
Wordspodcast.locals.com.
A Faustian bargain. Yes, which is a good time to remind you that you should go to wordspodcast.locals.com. Use the promo code Welcome to Words, all one word in capital. There will be a relevant elephant there tomorrow for you, and we're not going to say anymore. All right. Anywho, all right. Next clip. Lay it on.
Okay, I want to do Carlin.
Okay.
Because I freaking loved this. Now, I wasn't hip to the larger op that they were talking about. I know absolutely nothing about it. But this was Carlin on Kim Iverson and fair use.
Certainly don't hate immigrants. But it's just because I think we're in a situation as a country where we just need to take a little bit of a pause and kind of look at the situation. Now, when I put that out online, let me
pause, and I just want to back up a little bit. Here we go. Okay.
Issue is interesting because, I mean, for me, I'm personally against all immigration. I think there should be an immigration moratorium. I think it should be completely closed off. It's not because I hate immigrants. It's not because I hate Indians. I'm literally married to a Ukrainian immigrant, so I certainly don't hate immigrants. But it's just because I think we're in a situation as a country where we just need to take a little bit of a pause and kind of look at the situation. Now, when I put that out online, I wasn't actually called a racist by the left. I was called a racist by the right. And so it's like, okay, so now we can't even have discussions about what makes sense for this country in terms of immigration policy without being called a racist by one side or another. And I think when you do, because they said that I hated all Indians and that was why I didn't want immigration. Or I mean, it's kind of the same thing with, you know, if you speak out against what Israel is doing in Palestine, you get called anti-Semitic. Well, anti-Semitism is literally racism against Jewish people. That's what the term means. And so it's like, you can't have reasonable conversations about this without being insulted by one side or the other. And I think when you create that sort of reality where you just assume that the reason someone is against something is because they hate Indians or they hate immigrants or they hate Jews or they hate, you know, Black people or whatever it is, that is naturally going to push people who want to have those conversations to the most extreme margins of what's going on. And, you know, I mean, I think we should live in a place where we should be able to have these conversations about race. And again, I'm not going to treat anyone differently because of their race. I don't have any sort of feelings about people who aren't as white as I am, even with the sun shining on me. But I mean, I think, you know, we look at things like, you know, the Haitian immigrant thing that happened several months ago, where, you know, we are bringing immigrants into this country who have on average about a 65 IQ. And I think that it's not a problem because of their skin color. It's a problem because of the reality of, are these people capable of assimilating to this country in a way that we would want them to assimilate, or is this just going to cause problems for us? We should be able to have these conversations without being accused of being hateful people. And I think the fact that we can't on either side is what pushes people to the extremes.
Yeah, I think that is a
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that my position on all the things are exactly the same as hers, but the way what she said about not being able to talk about it is certainly the same, right?
Did you know that the average IQ of most of the immigrants is 65?
I didn't know that the average IQ of most of the Haitian immigrants was 65. I did, like years ago when it was being brought up a lot, look into Charles Murray's book, which I think is called like the bell curve or something like that, right? And I read like a lot of the stuff, and that wasn't specifically about Haitians. It was about, like Black people in general. And I didn't read the whole book. I just like looked into what those arguments were. And I know that like this has been a topic that for a long time. So I didn't know that that sort of analysis was being applied to the Haitian immigrants. I understood it was about assimilation. I didn't understand that there was an IQ application to the analysis of Haitian migrants that was going on in the media or anywhere. But this is what I mean, for me, I'm kind of like, I'm a voluntarist. So I think people should be able to go where they want to go, and they should expect to have to pay for themselves when they get there. Right, is kind of like where I stand on those topics. But that isn't what we have in this country. We have a scenario where they let people in for political purposes, and then they literally fund the cuckoo-ness they fund that project, and then they fund the crazy stuff that comes as a result of it. So of course we're going to have that.
I think Carlin made some really good points in this, and I know that a lot of people, including in our audience, can get their panties in a bunch around this issue. And what, for me, it's like, have people never traveled? Like, I've traveled all over this world. I needed a visa to go to India. I needed a visa to go to Singapore. If you stay too long, you have to explain yourselves. If you want to immigrate to these countries, you have to demonstrate, I have this much money in the bank. Here's what I do. Correct. I am going to assimilate to your culture. And I thought Carlin's point was really smart, was like, if someone has an IQ, the average IQ of 65, can they assimilate? And are they going to benefit our country? And why does that make someone a racist or hateful, which it totally doesn't, to just care about, do we have the resources to handle this and to take care of our own people here? And it's odd to me that people have these walls up in their brains for their virtue signaling, bleeding heart bullshit, that they can't actually consider this in a rational way.
Yeah, I mean, I do definitely agree that, like, in this scenario, this position that we're in this country, like financially and with debt and, economy and jobs and things like that, like, it is sane to go, like, let's just put a moratorium on, like, the entire thing for a period of time. And I agree with you. Like, when I go on, one of the games I like to play when I go on vacation is like, what would it be like to live here? So when you're in Mexico enjoying the beach or whatever, you're looking up on your phone, right? What are the rules if an American wants to live here? How easy is it to work from here? And you find pretty quickly that you have to prove you can go in and stay for 4 or 5 or 6 months, but if you're wanting to buy a place and stay there longer than that, you have to prove that there's no chance in hell that you're going to become a financial burden on that country in any way. Correct. And in fact, what are you going to do for our country? So then to have, right? So, that's what all the other countries for the most part are doing.
It's totally par for the course.
It's not insane right? So yeah, I mean, I think, I think there's all kinds of reasonable conversations to be had about this. And the idea that we can't have them without being called names is a way of never being able to talk about it, which tells you what the issue is, right?
Exactly.
Like, which, they want a more pliable population. And a 65 IQ is pretty pliable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right? Not dexterous, pliable, right? Dexterity and pliability are not the same thing.
I liken this, and I think it was last week that I spoke at the city council meeting after our thing, and I continue to speak, I spoke about a number of issues, but I'm speaking about the obelisk. And our globalist fucktard shills here are saying it's such a controversial issue, and it's like, it's not controversial if we just follow the law. Like, if we simply just follow the law, there's no controversy over it. It's illegal to tear down statues. It's illegal to cross a border and stay in a country where we don't have a green card, where we don't have a visa. Like, it's very simple. We just follow the letter of the law the way all of our ancestors did, except for whatever conquerors or Indians are here with us today.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I'm not much for for governments and rules, but if you're going to have them, then you either have them or you don't. You
We
have
have
them,
them.
you don't, and if you have them, it can't be selective enforcement, and it can't be irrationally high punishment for breaking this rule, but no punishment for breaking this other one that really is far worse than the right. So yeah, like it's just I think her points are certainly good and reasonable.
Oh, I do want to share just a little bit of local news. Because our leftist fucktards here are super doubling down on all of their leftist bullshit. They just passed a bill to give child murderers, so juveniles who've been convicted of murder, are now given 25 grand a year UBI and free college educations.
After they get out or while they're in?
After I think they might be getting out early, but after they're out, child murderers are being given these benefits.
So it's interesting because we're like, so when Laura and I feel like not having to think very hard, we'll go into like unsolved mysteries or like, serial killer kind of shows or whatever it is, right? And we're watching this one documentary series on Peacock now called Unexpected Killers, right? And like in some states, actually this might have been it was New Mexico. There's like you can get a life sentence as a juvenile but it has I can't remember what the name they gave it was. And then when you turn 21 or whatever it is, you're out with no record after that. So it's a life sentence, but only a life of an adult. And then once you become adult, right? Like it was like some crazy shit like that. So this sounds like just a doubling down on that. Now we've decided, since we're letting those people out of jail when they're 18 or 21, we need to make sure that they have funds to live their best life.
Right.
Yeah.
but we continue to incentivize and reward the worst behavior. It's called demoralization. It's super clear.
Well, it's like when the shit they do in California, where like somebody breaks into someone's house and instead of charging the person who broke into the house, they charge the person who hit him over the head with the baseball bat to stop them from running off with their stereo or whatever it is, right? Yeah. Yep. All right. Shall we do next clip, or do you want to see the tweet from producer Masaki and then go to let's do that and then we'll go to the chat room.
Tweet, please.
All right. Okay. So Masaki sent me this today. All right.
Thank you, producer Masaki.
Yes, he's on it all the time, right? He also just sent me a text while we were chatting here, wanting to know if we knew that Kanye West's kids went to Sierra Canyon. And I'm like, yeah, we already covered that like last year or 2 years ago or whatever it is,
Where
right?
I used to work, Sierra Canyon Day Camp.
Yes, hold on. Here's what he said about Sierra Canyon. He sent one that says, all right, so Kanye West is posting, as a father, I will no longer, no, it's time. Now they really have to kill me. As a father, I will no longer distract myself from my responsibility to truly and actually protect my actual children. It's time to go and get full custody, which will me take them out of the hands of Disney, Sierra Canyon, Pawn, celebrity parents, and the Kardashian clan and Mama Chris, who signed for the sex tape. I don't know. I guess he had a crazy tweet. But yes, we knew that they went to Sierra Canyon. Okay, so they went up for an 8-day mission back in June of 2024, got stranded, but somehow managed to have Christmas hats, decorations, and even candy canes. And now the video of their return looks more fake than a video game, but the masses are eating it up. It's all so tiring. That's just kind of how I feel about everything. It's all so tiring. But that is a good question, right? If they went on an 8-day mission back in June, why would they have brought Christmas supplies with them?
Well, I also saw one where like one of the lady astronauts in space had gray roots, but when she landed, she'd had a fresh dye job. So she took hair dye with her for an 8-day joyride.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole thing sounds nonsensical, but I was talking to Jana yesterday, and you tell me what you think. I was like, no, I think this is the only one. She thinks that this is the second time this has happened. She thinks that in 2023, there was another one that went and also the same thing happened and Elon Musk went and got them.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't remember that. I think it was just this one, but it's been going on for so long that it feels like it's two.
No, I definitely remember that as well.
Okay, Jana, there you go.
Jana and I are on the same timeline.
You are. There's no doubt about it. All right, let's go to the sandbox and see what kind of mud balls the children are throwing. All right, guys, if you've got questions, comments, any of that stuff, all capital letters, do it now. All right, I'm going to roll back and see what people have been saying all along here. Let's see.
Thank you guys also for your generous super chats. They really mean the world. We love you.
Yep. Yep. Let's see.
I don't think anyone has any questions for us.
Right.
But Gigi says Pluto, the farthest planet from the sun, totally wackadoo orbit. I like totally wackadoo orbit as another show title.
Oh, totally wackadoo orbit.
Option.
That's a good one. Hi,
Right?
Harlan said Brock Pierce also goes as far back as the Open Secret documentary. Interesting. A young actor in Hollywood, right? Then interesting. All right, let's see. Yeah, Thor, the best narrative wins. Terrence McKenna for sure. Was this streamed before or after he went out to the conference on Nicole Shanahan's dime? It was before, I think.
It might have been around the same time. No, it was before the conference because it was March.
Okay. Yeah, it was before, for sure. Yeah.
But it was also before he blew up like giant big, right?
I mean, like, I think he may have been big longer than you and I were aware he was big because you and I don't play on TikTok, right?
Right.
By the time that like I finally heard of him, it was weird because people were acting like I should know who he was. But like, right? So, but I don't play on TikTok, so.
Me neither.
All right, let's see. Oh, does Ian have a thing for Nicole? Maybe he wants to be husband number 4.
He's not rich enough.
Or,
Well,
or not Jewish enough.
right. She only goes out with, that whole thing. Yeah, it was kind of barferific, the whole video.
Mama Warbucks is a show name Kim Rose is recommending. On Rogan, also mentioned strange scenes inside Laurel Canyon. It's actually weird scenes inside the canyon. Yes, and it's interesting. I've noticed that anytime somebody brings up that book on a mainstream podcast like Joe Rogan, they say the title wrong.
Correct.
Right? It's fucking weird.
Do you think that's telegraphing something?
I mean, well, like, and like.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I just remembered something I want to find. Keep talking.
Okay. I remember like someone asked Tom O'Neill about it, and he had like all kinds of problems with Dave McGowan's sourcing, right? That he didn't do a bunch of like footnotes and this, that, and the other thing. One of the things about Dave McGowan that was interesting, and that like lots of people who are of a more naturally conspiratorial bent than he was, because he fell into this by setting out to prove certain things wrong, right? And then he ended up being like, no, it's true. He only used mainstream sources because he wanted to avoid the criticism that he was like, you know, pulling this information out of conspiracy rabbit holes, right? So he basically got to all the information that he got to through cross-referencing things that he was told with mainstream sources, right? And being able to prove them through things that showed up, right? And so it's funny how like when you're trying to avoid the criticism of one group of people, you can't do that. If like someone is determined to criticize your sources and methods, right? It'll be one way. If you do it that way, it'll be the other way. But you know, maybe he doesn't have every fucking detail right, but like nobody was looking at things in the way that people like Tom O'Neill and them are looking at them now until Dave McGowan went and did that. I mean, yeah, you know, you had your like super duper conspiracy theorist researchers like your Mae Brussel and things like that who had always been talking about these kinds of things on one level, but to sort of bring a little bit more, to bring it out of that realm and into a more sort of widely discussed, easier to understand sort of way of thinking about it. Like, nobody would be having success with some of these topics right now if there wasn't a Dave McGowan, right? And also, it's much different if you read his book than if you were following along on his website while he was writing these articles, right? Like now, unfortunately, after he died, his daughter like changed the website, and now it looks like, a controlled website on some level, right? And I don't know if she did that to make it so people would go buy the books because less things are available there on the right. But as he was working through all of this, he was discussing all of the sourcing and whatever it is, right? So there's a paper trail about where he got to all this. That doesn't mean he's perfect, but every single time I've heard it mentioned on a mainstream show, they say it wrong.
I've noticed that as well, and that was an Ian Joe Rogan thing. So I'm sorry to do this, but I want to share one more clip because it's so super telling.
And High Heart, I think you were just quoting Ian. I'm not accusing you of intentionally saying the name of the book wrong. I think you were just quoting him, which said the name wrong, I believe. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, fair use, here we go.
The two candidates, but I'll clarify them later. Because again, nothing's black and white, everything's complex. It's all like weighing values and percentages of certainty, and we never really know what's going on. So just doing my best to figure out what is going on. And what's going on with this $4 million that she apparently donated to RFK Jr.'s PAC, American Values, I can't find that anywhere. If you look up American Values, here's a screenshot. Oh, sorry, this is a screenshot of Nicole Shanahan's recorded donations to political campaigns of all sorts across like her whole life. And she's donated $6,600 to RFK Jr. in 2023. And 3,300 in 2023, and 3,300 in 2023. And
do you notice anything odd about those numbers?
3,000, right? It's all
66, 33, 33.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Back to the sandbox. Let's see what else is there. Has anyone put anything in capital letters at the bottom yet? Nope.
No questions for us.
Jason Lightfoot, $4.99. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason. Mucho, very appreciated.
Sent us a balloon and a heart that has a 3. I wonder what the 3 is for. But thank you so much. We appreciate you. All right, where were we? I can't look at the small print. Do astronauts do laundry? They probably get dry cleaning. Right, yeah, like the hair. Ashley Sinette's like the hair. That's like always like that's the dumbest part about the whole space station thing, right? Is always like how we know it's true is the hair. All right. Do you have anything else interesting to say today?
No, except that I am teaching a 12-week quantum languaging course for adults continuing their education, for college students and high school homeschoolers starting April 3rd through Apocatastasis Institute. So if you want to do a 12-week quantum languaging deep dive with me, message me or register at Apocatastasis Institute.
Very good. Yes, Steve, they killed Dave for it. That is correct, right? Like they just took one look at his very rough early draft documentary about the event in Boston, and they were like, you gotta go. And like he got cancer and was like dead 37 seconds later, right? The fastest acting cancer I'd ever heard of. Nigel loves us.
Thank you, Nigel.
Hold on. Somebody wants to see. Nigel wants to see Brett and Eric in space documentary. That would be a good idea. Send them to the space station to get stranded and make video.
That would be a great. Heather would love it too.
Elon should take them there and then leave them because he can't stand them. It's like blocking them on Twitter, right? I'm not going to come back and get you.
That'd be a great olive branch to give to Brett. Hey, Brett, I want to pay for your trip to space. As an apology
come back
for blocking
and debunk all the conspiracy theorists who think the ISS is fake. Right? How about that? All right. Are we done?
We're done.
Going twice. We will see you all next week. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. New episode of Regular Words drops tomorrow. Go over there, use your promo code, get it. See you later. Bye.